Welcome. This is part 3 of my overview of transits for America in the year 2022. And in part 3, I want to talk about the May 15th lunar eclipse and also a rare conjunction of Mars, Uranus, and the Lunar North Node around August 1st of this year. Okay, so let me share my screen and we'll get started. There we go. The May 15th lunar eclipse and the May 17 Mars-Neptune conjunction. Now, eclipses occur when a new moon or a full moon occurs close to the lunar nodes, and the effects can last for months. The lunar nodes always tend to intensify things. And on May 15th, there was a lunar eclipse with Mars and Neptune in close conjunction that became exact 2 days later. This type of conjunction creates a heightened risk for violence related to delusions and delusional ideologies. Okay, so over here you can see the sun in opposition to the moon and both close to the lunar nodes. That creates a lunar eclipse. And off to the side here, we have Mars pretty close to an exact conjunction with Neptune. The energy of Mars, the aggression of Mars, combined with Neptune, which can represent ideologies, belief systems, and also delusions. Both, it has two aspects. It can be spiritual highs, it can be spiritual or other kinds of delusions. But those Neptunian things can be inflamed by Mars and result in violence based on delusional ideologies. So there's a heightened risk for that sort of thing at this time, but as we'll see on the next slide, for America in particular. The possibility of violence was particularly highlighted in America because during both the eclipse and the May 17 transits, the Mars-Neptune conjunction was opposite natal natal Neptune and square natal Mars. Okay, so here we have, I've got a trihedral here. In the center, we have the lunar eclipse. So this is Mars and Neptune during the eclipse. And this is Mars exactly conjunct Neptune a couple of days later, and they're both in opposition to natal Neptune and square natal Mars. That created a heightened risk for violence in America. And sadly, mass shootings have become an almost daily occurrence in America. But two shootings stand out in particular during this period in terms of the impact they've had on ordinary citizens. The May 15 shooting at a Tops supermarket in Buffalo, New York, and the May 24th shooting in Uvalde, Texas. Also, the shooter purchased his guns and ammunition on May 16 through 18. So these were two very, very sad events in America. I should point out perhaps that oftentimes where we really see astrology working is when something rather extreme is happening in the sky. And when we see rare or extreme events occurring celestially, that is often when we see extreme things happening here on planet Earth. That's when astrology really comes to life. Most of the time, up in the skies, nothing that unusual is going on. And down below, we don't see things that unusual going on either. But extreme celestial events often result or express themselves in terms of extreme terrestrial events. Now let's go on to August. The August 1st triple conjunction of Mars, Uranus, and the North Node. The planet Uranus breaks up the existing pattern, Mars adds an aggressive energy, and the lunar nodes intensify the energy. The last time Uranus and the North Node were conjunct in Taurus was on March 16, 1855. Mars was not part of that conjunction then, but actually just a few months later in May, Mars had moved into Taurus and it became conjunct Uranus. So it was, in a way, kind of like a triple conjunction spread out over time a bit. Anyway, at this time in America, back in 1855, slavery was already a divisive issue, and border ruffians from Missouri entered Kansas in order to elect a pro-slavery legislature on March 30th, 1855. You can look up border ruffians in the Wikipedia and get a lot more detail on what was going on then. Fortunately, just 6 years later, Kansas joined the Union as a free state. Today, however, the divisive issue is a woman's right to choose an abortion. And Kansas has found itself once again at the epicenter of a divisive issue during the August 2 elections. It's really interesting. There are a lot of things happening now astrologically and on Earth, which are kind of a repeat of things which led up to the American Civil War in the 1860s. And this is one of them. We had, on August 1st, we had Uranus conjunct the North Node, kind of a triple conjunction between Uranus, North Node, and Mars. And we have divisive issues today, particularly abortion. And Kansas became the epicenter for that issue during the August 2nd election. And sure enough, last time Uranus was conjunct the North Node in Taurus, back in March 16, 1855, again, we had a divisive issue in America, that time slavery, and Kansas became the epicenter for that in 1855. Now, also at this time, Nancy Pelosi drew severe criticism from China for visiting Taiwan. However, we should ask ourselves, why Pelosi and why Taiwan at this time? What do they have to do with the triple Mars-Uranus-North Node conjunction? The answer is clear when we put the three charts together, and we see that both Pelosi and Taiwan have planets, including Mars in all three and Saturn in two, mostly clustered near 18 degrees Taurus, where the triple conjunction occurred. Thus, there's a resonance between this conjunction and both Nancy Pelosi and Taiwan, and this is how astrology often works. Okay, if we look over here, I've got, let's see, the inner chart are the current transits on August 1st, where we have the North Node, Mars, Uranus conjunction. In the middle, I have Nancy Pelosi's chart, and the outer chart is the chart for Taiwan. And you can see a connection here. They both have a pilot of planets in Taurus, all three of these. Mars is in Taurus in all three. Both Nancy Pelosi have Saturn, and Nancy Pelosi in Taiwan, they both have Saturn in Taurus. Now, Saturn is not that close to 18 degrees Taurus, but these other three planets in her chart, Uranus, Venus, and Mars, are all fairly close to 18 degrees where the transit has occurred. And in Taiwan's chart, Saturn, the Moon, and Mars are all fairly close to 18 degrees. In fact, I think the midpoint for all three planets is about 19 degrees Taurus. So when you have similar conditions occurring in two or more charts, this creates a resonance between those two charts, and they become linked together. And thus, this is the astrological explanation of why Nancy Pelosi wound up visiting Taiwan at this time. Okay, well, that's going to be it for this third part, so I'll stop sharing the screen. And I have just one more part where I'll talk a little bit about what to expect for this fall, some of the highlights, which include a very lengthy retrograde movement of Mars that's going to hit some very sensitive points in this July 4th Declaration of Independence chart. And then we'll also talk about a very impactful lunar eclipse that's going to occur on November 8th, which is also going to be the date for the midterm elections in America. And however it turns out, I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people who are unhappy. So I'll talk about that in the final part of my overview of American transits, and that will be part 4. Okay, so that's it. Goodbye. I hope to see you later.